I made one decision that completely changed my life. I decided to revolt against living a boring life. I decided to regain the zest in life. Or in other words, I decided to do shit I enjoy doing. I genuinely believe this might be the single best decision that you could make in your life. Because what does it make sense to do things you don't want to do, to just keep doing things you don't want to do? But that's most people, right? They work a job 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, doing things they don't want to do. They would never do those things if they weren't told to do them to make money. And so they do those things that they don't want to do just to get money to then pay for bills, food and stuff like that so they can survive. But really to pay for a life where they continue to do things they don't want to do. And it doesn't even just stop at their business or their job. This whole attitude trickles into the rest of their life, where they end up doing things in their spare time that they don't really want to be doing either. Maybe they hang out with people they don't really want to be around. Maybe they feel obliged to do certain things for certain people when really they're not obligated at all. They just feel like they are. And then they begrudgingly do that and they don't really want to be doing it. Or maybe they're not even, even in their free time, they're not even pursuing their passions. They're not even doing their hobbies. They're not doing shit they enjoy. And so their whole life becomes really about doing things they don't want to do. And look, I get it, right? In life, we have to do things we don't want to do. But there's a difference between, doing things you don't want to do occasionally or temporarily to then create a life where you don't have to do that, which is a life where that's the thing I'm pursuing. And there's a difference between that and then just subjecting yourself to a life where you're doing things you don't want to do for the foreseeable, right? You're working a job you hate and you have no idea, no plan, no goal of leaving that job. You're doing things, you're not doing shit you enjoy in your spare time and you've got no plans or ideas of doing that either, right? There's a complete difference between that and then doing things you don't want to do just because life is presented these things to you and you just kind of have to do them temporarily until you can build a life where you don't have to do that. What does it make sense to live a life that you don't enjoy? Like what? Where's the sense in that? Just to make money? Well, what's the point in having money if you're not enjoying your life? You could say, to give it to your kids, but if you're not enjoying your life, and that's 100% affecting how you feel, that's your whole attitude to life, what's better? Your kids seeing you living an amazing life, enjoying your life, having the best attitude towards life, and learning through osmosis and doing the same thing? Or is it better that you're able to, buy them a couple of nice things and take them on 1 or 2 holidays a year, but then the rest of the time they see you miserable and stressed and just having a bad time, or that them just not seeing the zest, the spark in you, the light in your eyes? Well, in my opinion, that they're not even comparable. And what's the point in, going for status, right? People get jobs and they do things that they don't want to do to make money and to have higher status or a little bit more status within their friendship group, within their family, right? To look better. Oh, you've got that cool job. Oh, you're a lawyer. Wow. But that little tiny bit of pleasure there, that little tiny bit of status there, does that really outweigh the fact that you hate what you're doing? I don't think it does. And what other reasons is there to do things you don't want to do? You got money, you got status. What else? You got pleasure, right? With that money and with that status, maybe you can get some pleasure in life. Maybe, like I said, you could go on holidays, you could buy nicer things. But again, what does a little bit of pleasure here and there, this temporary pleasure, what does that really do in your life? Like, does that outweigh the fact that you hate what you're doing every day? Probably not. And so that's why I made this decision. And it's been turning out pretty good for me so far. I mean, I'm not trying to air like I've got this perfect life. I don't by any means. I still work a part-time job. And honestly, that job is probably one of the best jobs I've had. But there's still elements of it, I don't want to do it, but I'm doing it just to make money. And again, it's temporary, right? It's something that I'm doing for now while I actually run this YouTube channel, and I'm going to be growing a community and continue to do my coaching. But again, like, even though this job that I've got right now is pretty good, like, I like the people there, there's certain, tasks that I'm doing. It's a very creative job, and I've never done this type of work before. It's like we're working in events and we have to prepare the events and make stuff, but also like put them up. And the people are great, and it's a good job. But here's the thing, right? Even with all of that, even it probably being one of the best jobs I've ever had, I'm still doing things I don't want to be doing every single day when I'm there. And so, to me, I have to kind of revolt against that. I have to revolt against the monotony. I have to revolt against being told to do certain things, even though they're not like authoritarian, but, they tell me, hey, can you go do this? Yeah, of course I can. But I don't want to do it. And I don't believe I should have to. Not long term, anyway. And so I genuinely believe as well that the only way to achieve greatness is to do it by doing things you enjoy. Like, just, if you're not doing shit you enjoy, how can you become great at it? You look at everybody that's achieved anything great in life, they loved what they were doing, they were obsessed with it, they enjoyed it, right? Now, they might have not enjoyed it all the time, and they might not have been pleasure all the way through, and that's not what I'm getting at. Even if you do end up doing shit you enjoy all the time, there's going to be times when you're doing the shit that you enjoy that you don't really enjoy it that much, because you're human. But what matters is that most of the time you are, right? If it's like, let's say 80%, 90% of the time you enjoy it, then 10, 20, 30% of the time you're kind of struggling through it. Maybe you've got mental resistance to it, or you just don't feel like it that day, or you're tired, or, whatever the case may be. It's a bit difficult, you're coming up against a challenge. But that, honestly, kind of adds to it. It's like a video game, right? You would not play a video game that you just didn't enjoy at all. But even if you've played video games before, right? If you're an avid gamer, even the games you love, the ones that you enjoy the most, there are times when you're playing that game where you are so frustrated, right? There's times when you're playing that game when you're like, I don't want to play this game anymore. And you turn it off. There may be times where you throw the controller across the room, or you shout at a fucking TV, right? But you still enjoy that game. You still love that game, and you go back the next day, not because someone told you to, because you wanted to. And that challenge almost adds to it, right? Because the game is difficult, it adds to it. And look, there's also days where you're just tired, or you're not feeling it, or you're in a bad mood, and you play that game and it doesn't really light you up inside as much as it normally does, and that's got nothing to do with the game, it's got something to do with you. You're just having a bad day. And the same thing goes for like doing shit you enjoy in general, whether it's hobbies or pursuing that as a career or a business. Ideally, I think what you should do is do the things that you enjoy all the time, do them as much as you can, pick a couple to do the most, get so good at those things that people are willing to pay you to continue doing them. But let's say you go through that whole process, you're not going to enjoy it all the time. But trust me, you're going to enjoy it like 100 times more than the shit job that you're working, or the good job that you're working that you still hate. And to me, it's much wiser, at least for me in my experience, to prioritize passion over money, status, even success. Because what's the point in all of that if you don't enjoy your life? So yeah, maybe you want to make the same decision. Maybe you want to revolt against the boring life. Relinquish this, complacency towards a monotonous, just repeatable, same thing, same day, same thing, same day. Maybe you want to regain your zest to life. Maybe you just want to start doing shit you enjoy.